It's the RJ Ochoa Show on 94.1 San Antonio Sports Star. What's going on in Jerry's world? What's the latest from Cowboy Camp? Find out right here, Friday mornings at 7:30 and 9:30 with the manager and editor-in-chief of Blogging the Boys, RJ Ochoa. Here's Robin Rudy.
It's time for a show within a show. We'd like to welcome on RJ to R&R, hence 3 R's. He's Rudy, I'm Rob. There is RJ Ochoa of Blogging the Boys, sitting comfortably in the office of fun. How are you doing this morning, RJ?
It's great to be with y'all. Happy Friday. Happy cooler weather. Happy November. Happy.
Well, is that a Ranger shirt or a Spurs shirt?
You know what, Rob? My beef is generally with Rudy on this show. And
I was
know
curious
where the bodies are buried. So, I mean, we can be cool. We can be whatever. But,
Did you celebrate at all?
He's a real Astro fan.
Okay.
He's not Jason Minix. He's a real Astro fan.
Ooh, wow. I make fun of Jason for having like 14 hockey teams, but you're right in calling him out, Rudy, that he does have 2 baseball teams.
And he goes, well, I'm an AL, and it was an NL, and he has this deep story about I used to go when I was a kid, and I had a pretzel and candy apples, so I don't care what y'all say. I'm a fan of both. All right.
I will say I'm happy. I obviously have a lot of followers and friends who are fans of the Rangers.
Mm-hmm. You do.
I'm happy that they can experience sports happiness. I mean, it's a special thing. So kudos to them. But that's about all I have to say.
There we go. Very kind from RJ Ochoa. As we come into this week, we just had Coach McCarthy on, and Rudy asked him about Tyron Smith. He didn't go through practice. Last week we had him on, and he acted surprised that you wouldn't, he's going to be okay. He's going to play Sunday. And yet again, Tyron didn't go through practice. And Rudy intimated and asked the question, at what point do you go, you know what, I don't care if you're healthy or not. I can't put you in as a starter. We'll use you when we need you. And
for continuity reasons, not because he sucks.
Right, but just to get your offensive line stable. And he said, no, Tyron is a starter. How long do you think this is going to be an issue? And if it maintains this, do you see the Cowboys at some point truly going and drafting a left tackle or chasing something where the replacement is in the building, where obviously today I don't think he is?
I mean, to answer the question, how long I think this is going to be an issue, the Cowboys are 5-2, so they have 10 more regular season games. So I don't know, 4 months.
Yeah.
This is going to be an issue for the rest of the ride, however long it is. I don't think they'll draft a left tackle because they do have Tyler Smith on their team.
That's what I don't. What is he better at, RJ? From y'all's analytics at the Blogging the Boys, what is Tyler Smith better at?
I mean, I would much rather Tyler Smith play left tackle. I mean, this is a tackle-rich draft class that the NFL is set to enter reportedly. I mean, we're pretty early on that, but I mean, the Cowboys conceivably won't be near the territory that you would have to be to get some kind of franchise cornerstone player of that capacity. But to Rudy's point, look, I don't want to be hypocritical. I was fine with going at this, with giving this the old college try. Mm-hmm. Hey, let's see how Tyron holds up. Let's put him at left tackle. But in my opinion, the long, hard look in the mirror had to happen over the bye week. And you had to tell yourself, look, guys, we tried, kudos.
Mm-hmm.
But this simply cannot work because, to Rudy's point, I mean, look, think about this. The word the Cowboys gave on Sunday when they beat the Rams and Tyron didn't play was, oh man, he was right there. It would literally came down to the final 30 minutes, and he was that close. And yet here we are now on Friday, and he hasn't practiced. So despite the fact that he was that close,
right,
he hasn't practiced over each of the last 2 days. And there was a point where you're willing to settle for 80% of Tyron Smith over whatever else, but you're just dealing with too much topsy-turviness here. I do think that there's merit in saying Tyler Smith the left tackle, whoever you want is the left guard.
Yes, thank you, RJ.
And Tyron, we love you, but you're on us until we need you, and that probably works best for everyone. This is just it's impossible to keep up, and it's weird to say, but at this point, his presence creates a lot more questions than it does answers.
RJ, from both sides, from the haters and from the Cowboy lovers, why does it not feel like this team has won 11 of 12 division games? Like, when you really think about that, like they've won 11 of their last 12 division games, yet we're both sides are like, I don't know. Why is that?
I think you could ask that same question and say, why do both sides hate the franchise quarterback who's really successful and who is one of the best across the NFL?
Well, yeah, as the Dak as the starter, 11 of 12. Right, got you.
Well, Dak wasn't the starter for some of those, the actual literal for this because of Cooper Rush. But, I mean, some of it, I think, is that AT&T Stadium, despite the fact that the Cowboys have an 11-game winning streak there, isn't Arrowhead, isn't, the Seahawks home stadium, Field or whatever it is at the time, isn't, the big house, right? Like nobody regards it as that. And some of it is that the NFC East has had some poor teams from Washington and New York in the past. So, nobody really like gives you pats on the back for those things. And the other team, the Eagles, they reached the Super Bowl last year. And so like, cool. You want to like the answer to everything is always cool. You won 11 of 12 division games. Well, the Eagles went to the Super Bowl. Cool. You have an 11-game home winning streak. The Eagles into the Super Bowl. Cool. Like, where's the Super Bowl? Where's the NFC Championship game? Like, so to your point, or to your question, I guess, anything the Cowboys do is measured against the past and the hypothetical. They are fighting all sorts of shadows and ghosts and, goblins and ghouls. I mean, it is heavy is the head that wears their crown because they can pull off all these things. And to your point, no one will regard it as impressive.
That's RJ Ochoa. He's here for his regular show inside of a show. The offense for Philadelphia isn't frightening, but all the guys that they have is. It
is frightening. What game are we watching?
They're not going to run away from you is what I'm getting at. They're not going to go out and hang 50 on you, but they're going to hang 40 minutes of possession. You know what I mean? They're going to go and try to just matriculate the ball down the field. And knowing what the Eagles have at least been doing to win this far, can the Cowboys legitimately expect to stop the run?
Man, that was an excellent question from Rob. That was an excellent diagnosis of what the Eagles are. So Rudy, you can chill.
All right, my bad. I'll shut up.
Thank you, sir.
You would think, you look at their roster and it's extremely talented, but from an offensive EPA per play standpoint, they're kind of middle of the pack.
Yeah.
Offensive DVOA is a little bit kinder to them. Like they're not rated in the sum of their parts right now. And what's frustrating is that they're 7-1, right? And Jalen Hurts is turning the ball over left and right, but they're 7-1. I mean, so it is an extremely kind of frustrating concept. I agree with you, Rob. The Cowboys, this isn't quite like riding a bull to where you have to hold on, but this is a 10-round fight. I mean, you have to expect to lose a few and to absorb a few punches. And this is going to come down to, they're going to have to accept that, look, A.J. Brown might have 125 yards. Okay, fine. Jalen Hurts is going to get out of the pocket and is going to convert some first downs. Okay, fine. Oh, they might get into a 1st and goal at the 1 or a 4th and short, and they do the tush push. It's going to have to like
the brotherly shove.
Yeah, exactly. I prefer that name myself.
Me too.
I mean, they are not clicking right now. I mean, but they have a very gaudy reputation because back to your question, Rudy, no matter what they do, they went to the Super Bowl last year. You know what I mean? So everyone regards them as the big bad wolves. And in many respects, they still are. But right now, the Cowboys offense, if you're going off of just the last few weeks, the Cowboys offense is the one that's performing better. But the Eagles defense is also kind of keeping them in games, which is what makes this difficult. I mean, you're going to have to capitalize on each and every single opportunity.
Now let's go to the other side, RJ. How long? Because I'm not a guy that I don't like to do things that I know aren't going to pay me any dividends. How long do you want them to stick with the run? Speaking of the Cowboys, knowing the Eagles only give up 66 yards per game, like if you see early on, don't you just bail and just say, hey, well, I mean, how long do you stick with trying to give Tony Pollard these 1-2 yard carries when you see, Jalen Carter and Fletcher Cox just not having it?
Yeah, well, I don't think Fletcher Cox has much of anything these days. I mean, Jalen Carter.
So he's past his prime. I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
It's just a name Fletcher right Cox now.
Well,
yeah,
it's a good name.
Smith out there.
Okay.
But yeah.
Ouch. Damn. Okay, got you.
But Jalen Carter is 100% for real. And they are very, very, very talented. And I agree with you. I mean, there's no sense in like trying to, prove anything. There's no like you're not imposing your will. I know that Rob said matriculate down the field. You're not Hank Stram, or not Hank Stram. That's gracious.
That was Hank. That was Hank Stram.
No, that Hank Stram was the old Cowboys GM. I'm blanking on the Chiefs
Oh
coach.
no, Hank.
It wasn't Williams. I know that, but anyway, this isn't some old school football war that you have to win. You have to be willing to adjust and to adapt and to attack. And we saw that against the Rams. Now, the Cowboys were able to do their thing and get out to a big lead against the Rams and kind of put it on ice. But I do think that they would have been more willing to kind of attack and keep their foot on the gas the entire game. Now, what I will say is the most impressive Cowboys drive they had against the Rams was their first one of the second half. After the Rams came out and narrowed it to a 16-point game, I think a lot of people were kind of concerned, like, oh, man, what if they go 3 and out? The Rams go down, score a one-possession game. Cowboys salted that thing away. They really did matriculate the ball down the field. It was a 17-play drive that took up almost 10 minutes of game clock, and they didn't score a touchdown, but they did kick a field goal. They did, keep it a 3-possession game. And so you're going to have one of those, but you're right. Like you do not have to do that. You do not have to die on any kind of hill. You can adjust, you can adapt, and I'm hopeful that's what the Cowboys.
Sam Howell had a decent game against the Philly defense throwing the ball. I mean, he did, and they dropped some passes in that game if you were able to watch it.
Now, RJ, with that being said, that don't die on the hill if you're not going to be able to run it, throw the ball, and use sharp, crisp passes or whatever the case might be.
Right.
But if you had to pick and say, we're going to have a guy on our offense that's going to have not a career day, but have a day, like a CD day last week, would you prefer, which would be the most appropriate guy to have the game? Is it Pollard, CD, or maybe Brandon Cooks? If you had to pick one to have a day like CD had last week, that'll be appropriate to winning the game, which guy would it be?
Well, so first of all, it was Hank Stram. I doubted myself.
Yeah, not
I doubted you. Yeah, Tex Stram. Goodness gracious, it's too early.
You were right.
I got you.
You were right.
Coffee.
You're half
I think
right.
it has to be CD. Like CD
Again.
is an extension of Dak. I mean, Dak is the Jedi and CD is the Force. Like that's the kind of relationship that they have. And the way that they can. I mean, you can laugh, but it's
no, I feel you.
total truth. Yeah, CD Lamb has had 275 yards over the course of his last 2 games. I mean, last week, CD Lamb had 14 targets. The next highest member of the Cowboys had 4. I mean, think about that. And it was one of the most impressive performances we've seen from Dak Prescott specifically. There's a reason. CD Lamb is the straw that stirs the drink. But you do have to be willing to accept that the Eagles might devote an enormous amount of attention and resources to him.
Darius
You know what?
Slay,
We're not
meet
losing to
CD.
CD. Yeah, we're not losing to Lamb today. And so in that respect, if it just in the spirit of being prepared, I mean, I don't know that it's Brandon Cooks. I think in that world, it has to be Jake Ferguson.
Oh.
Like there has to be somebody who is just the annoying first down machine. The annoying, we had him on 3rd and 7. Like what gives? Like how do they keep finding a way to move the chains? Like, and so if it's not CeeDee Lamb, I do think it's got to be Jake Ferguson because they've got to have success up the middle of the field. This defense is not going to let you just kind of nickel and dime on the sides of the field and move your way down slowly. You're going to have to find big plays.
With Philly, great offensive line, RJ. Considering Micah's only has a half a sack in the last 3 meetings, can they win if he's not getting home?
I mean, I would argue that probably not. I mean, the last meeting was a big offensive showing, and Jalen Hurts didn't play in that game, obviously. And Micah had more of an impact, but if you rewind and look at the game in Philly last year, that was I wouldn't even say one of the worst games of Micah's career, but one of the least effective games of Micah's career because they took him out of it and they wrote the book that Jonathan Gannon kept and put it in his desk drawer and opened in Arizona a few weeks ago. They ran right at him. They were not afraid. And they proved that that's the way that you neutralize him. And so if I was them, I would do it again. Now, obviously, Jalen Hurts is a little bit banged up, however you want to define that. And isn't necessarily in the same position from a skill standpoint to be able to do that. But, man, I mean, Micah has to have a big game. And we talked about this, a lot heading into San Francisco. Micah loves to talk, and Micah has earned the right to talk. I want to be very clear about that.
Sure.
Micah loves to say that he wants these big moments and these big stages and whatever. All right, man, you want it? Like, here, you're going back home to Pennsylvania. This is a chance to send a message, to put yourself in a position to retake control in the NFC East, to send them into their bye with a loss at home to the Cowboys and, stew on everything. I mean, this is it. Like, you want to be the Lion? This is it. Just Pride Rock.
Wow, well said.
Take it home.
Now, go ahead, bro.
No, go ahead.
Week 5, right before San Fran game, you came on here that Friday. It's like, hey, Rudy, this is our boogeyman. I ain't really scared of Philly. They don't really scare me. Do you feel the same today, 3 weeks later?
Yeah, I mean, I respect. Don't get me wrong.
But see, my mom taught me when somebody says I respect somebody, the disrespect's coming behind it.
I mean, look, I'm not above disrespecting the Eagles by any stretch, but they're extraordinarily talented. They've had a lot of success, but for the most part, despite their success, they haven't had much against the Cowboys. Like that, is very much worth saying. And when you look at Cowboys-Eagles matchups in recent history, obviously a lot of them don't feature starting quarterbacks. Obviously, a lot of them were not games of consequence because they were the final weeks of the regular season. But, I mean, in the Dak Prescott era, he has lost 2 games of consequence to the Eagles. 2019, late in the year, one of the worst games of Dak's career. In 2007, AT&T Stadium, what was then the worst loss ever in the building. I sat next to David Chancellor and watched him put his makeup on for the postgame. It was very cool.
Did you help?
I did not, but he also brushed his teeth right there, and I found that to be amazing. That he was doing that right in the
You're crazy.
It was really cool. Anyway, the Cowboys. Look, the Niners are the Cowboys' daddy. There's no doubt about it. I told y'all that. And I'm not above admitting that. Like, let's call a spade. But if we're calling a spade, the Cowboys, for the most part, beat the Eagles. I mean, sometimes they have trouble doing it. Sometimes it is tense. But this is not a team that owns them. It is a team that is a rival. It is a game that is important, but it is not a boogeyman in the same way that San Francisco is.
Hey, you're the only person I would ask this because you're the only person that would have this type of recall. How are the Cowboys on real grass? You don't have to be specific on the record, but your recall, because your recall is ridiculous, is out the charts. What are the Cowboys like on real grass?
The last game they played, they scored 35 points on the Buccaneers. They do or die.
See, I knew he would know.
Playoff game. I mean, so
I knew you would know.
And they did it, in their cursed Navy jerseys, and they hadn't won a playoff game in forever against Tom Brady, who they had never beaten ever, and won their first road playoff game since the '92 NFC Championship.
RJ Ochoa sitting with us. Brandon Aubrey got the Special Teams Player of the Month award. This is one of those just, for lack of a better word, blessing. My goodness, who'd have thought? Guy off the street, and there is zero concern about the kicking game as we sit.
Yeah, I mean, I love soccer, but I don't keep too much tabs on the MLS. I guess I'm going to have to now to maybe find, a future NFL kicker. His story is amazing. It's remarkable. It helped that someday, he's in the Hall of Fame and everybody laughs about how he missed his first extra point. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of got that sort of vibe. But I mean, he is literally the most consistent player on the team, the most dependable, the most reliable. And people always fail to give kickers and punters their proper due because, they're just kickers and punters. He is literally in charge of scoring points. Like there are a handful of people who are in charge of doing that. And he is doing that in literally the most reliable way possible. He's a weapon. I mean, the dude made a 58-yard field goal last week.
That is insane. And we all thought he was going to make it, didn't we? Kind of.
Yes, there was no doubt in my mind.
I mean, I'm afraid of everything. So, I was afraid in that moment. But, yeah, how do you doubt him right now? I mean, he has been remarkable. He is an incredible story. The Cowboys deserve a lot of, but obviously Brandon Aubrey deserves most of it.
And I text somebody from USAA last night, RJ, after I saw your thread about Charlotte Jones being up for Charlotte Jones, Executive Vice President, Chief Brand Officer for USAA NFL Salute to Service Award. And this person told me that she's got to make it through the fan part first. So we got to go out and vote for Charlotte if we want her to win this award. Speaking as Jerry Jones' daughter, if I'm not mistaken, or is this his wife? This is his daughter, right?
No, this is his daughter.
Yeah,
It's his daughter. Okay, it's his daughter.
Is his wife.
Gene
Yeah.
picks out the art.
We got to vote for. We got to vote for Charlotte.
I will say, I've told many people this before. Charlotte is, she has an incredible litmus test with the fan base. The fan base loves Charlotte. Like Google search, Twitter search her name. There are a lot of people who wish Charlotte would take over the football operation.
Wow.
Like anything
So she's got some Jeannie Buss in her.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
some Jeannie Buss
And McMahon's daughter.
Some
They're
Shiv
best
Roy,
friends.
if you're a Succession fan. Without the hopefully, other qualities and whatever. I mean, she is one of the people who keeps things moving. I mean, halftime shows and everything, and all the partnerships and promotions and money that is raised for great causes. I mean, that is her, and she's really likable and charming. Steven gets behind a microphone, and I mean, it's come on, it's easy fodder. But Charlotte kind of holds court and runs the building a little bit differently.
He's RJ Ochoa, and he's here every week. What's your plans for the weekend? You getting up early, watch the Aggies?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what's going on. I'm hopeful that I know that the forecast is on call, but it gets a little bit cooler. I'm gonna be straight up with y'all. I'm gonna smoke a turkey because I'm prepping. I think we're gonna smoke the Thanksgiving turkey.
Okay.
This is a test run.
Are you gonna test drive? Okay. Are you brining it? Are you going to inject it?
Plan.
Of course.
I don't know about injecting, but I'm definitely going to brine it. I mean, but if injecting it is necessary, I'm definitely going to add some glaze throughout the process. But
my best advice to you is follow the directions that you're going. But at the end, you're going to want to amp up the temperature, maybe 10 to 15 degrees, a little bit more to get the skin a little bit crispier, because you're going to be dealing with some South Texas humidity that I don't think plays into those recipes when we're dealing with Traeger. That's my only advice when you're dealing with the turkey. Follow directions, but amp up the temperature a little bit late so you get a little bit better skin.
I have one final question. Should I do the spatchcock style? Like, do you recommend?
The spatchcock cuts time in half, man. If you're down to cut that thing like that, spatchcocking is a great way. That's the best way to smoke a turkey in my mind.
All right. Rudy, are you team spatchcock?
Yes.
Do you know what that is?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm team Tigger. I love the family photos on Halloween.
No kidding. Respect,
brother. Respect.
How's the course around the house? Is it in good shape?
Yeah, I wouldn't know because I haven't played around.
It's football season.
I don't know how long, but
how long for RJ? How long? 2 weeks?
I haven't played. I think Cammy and I played around together when Roel was at daycare, like in June.
Wow!
And we were able to get one round in, but it's difficult, and especially now this weekend with the clocks we're still doing that, right? Like the Constitution hasn't changed that.
Hey, man.
Speaking of.
We are all for it around. We're all for it around the Radio Ranch. We get another hour of sleep. You want to stay up late and watch the game? Make sure you're following all the Twitters and everything that RJ does on the X's and the threads, and go to Blogging the Boys because the stuff is of legend. That's RJ Ochoa. Have yourself a fine weekend, my buddy. We will see you next week.
Likewise. Y'all have a spatchcock weekend.